The talk show host thought he had full control, until Jungkook turned the tables and left him scrambling for answers. The studio lights felt blinding, hotter than he expected. Jungkook had often appeared on television, speaking in front of millions and facing various interviews. However, today felt different. There was tension in the air, a cold energy signaling that this was not just an ordinary conversation. He adjusted his jacket, maintaining an upright posture as he sat across from Graham Layton, the host of the exchange. A well-groomed man with a reputation for cornering his guests. He was known for his sharp questions, relentless attitude, and his ability to turn interviews into public interrogations. Jungkook was invited to talk about his career in the music industry, his life journey, and his achievements. But from the moment he stepped onto the set, he could sense something was off. The energy in the room felt tense, full of expectation, as if the audience was waiting for a confrontation. Jungkook glanced at them. Some looked intrigued, while others appeared skeptical with their arms crossed. A producer counted down from 3. The red camera light turned on. Graham greeted him with a smile that had been practiced many times, but his eyes remained cold. "Jungkook, welcome to the exchange." Jungkook responded with a polite nod. "Thank you for having me." Graham tapped his fingers on the table, his voice calm but with a sharp undertone. "You've been in the spotlight for years. Some people would say your success is more due to luck than hard work. What do you think?" No small talk. No warm-up. Just a piercing question. Jungkook was used to facing interviews like this, but from Graham's tone, he knew this was not an ordinary conversation. It was a trap, and the audience was aware of it too. Jungkook remained calm. "I think that's an unfair simplification of the hard work I've put in over the years. But if you want to discuss it more specifically, I'm happy to do so." Graham smirked slightly, leaning in a bit. "Oh, we will discuss it specifically," he said, before turning to the camera as if speaking directly to the viewers. "Many people feel that you prioritize image over dedication to music, that you care more about popularity than quality. Have you ever thought about the impact this has on the industry?" That wasn't a question. That was bait. Jungkook wasn't interested in biting. He clasped his fingers on the table. "Every song I create comes from the heart. I can't control how people perceive me, but I can control how much I love music and dedicate myself to it." Graham smiled wryly, shaking his head slightly. "It's easy to say that. But let's talk facts," he said. "There are many allegations that you've received more special treatment than other musicians, that you've been given opportunities that others haven't. Can you honestly say that your success is entirely a result of hard work?" That question was a carefully crafted trap. If Jungkook denied it, he would sound arrogant. If he acknowledged any special advantages, it could be twisted as proof that he didn't deserve his success. Jungkook took a slow breath. "Graham, if you want to make accusations, at least show the evidence. Which opportunities? What special treatment?" Graham raised an eyebrow, then picked up a stack of papers from his desk, a mere prop. He dramatically opened one of the pages. "All right, let's start with this. There are rumors that one of the biggest music awards you won was influenced by the industry, not purely based on quality. Is that true?" Some audience members whispered among themselves. This was the moment Graham had been waiting for, the point where he could force Jungkook to defend himself. But he wasn't prepared for what would happen next. Jungkook looked him straight in the eye. "It's interesting how you frame this question, as if every achievement must have a conspiracy behind it. Do you have proof for this claim? Or is it just baseless speculation?" Graham blinked, just for a split second, but Jungkook saw it. He continued, his voice remaining calm. "Awarding isn't just about winning. It's about recognition for hard work. Do I feel honored? Yes. Did I force people to choose me? No. The music industry is a competitive place, and everyone works hard. If anyone doubts the results, maybe they should work harder than just making speculations." A wave of whispers spread through the audience. Graham could feel control slipping from his hands. But he hadn't given up. He leaned back in his chair, then spoke in a casual tone. "Okay, let's leave the music industry for a moment. Let's talk about your personality. You're known as a calm person, but there are moments when you seem to avoid criticism. Like a few years ago, when you walked out of an event amid protests against you. Wasn't that a cowardly act?" Suddenly, the atmosphere in the room changed. Jungkook knew exactly what incident he was referring to. He remembered that night, he had attended a charity event when a group of people shouted negative comments at him. They were angry, feeling that he should use his platform for different purposes. As he walked past them, someone threw a bottle at him. Jungkook tensed for a moment, but he didn't lose control. "So what you're saying is, when someone is publicly criticized, they should just stand there and take it. Does that apply to everyone?" Or just me? The room fell silent. Graham smiled slightly. I'm just saying that as a public figure, you have a responsibility to face criticism. Jungkook smiled faintly. Criticism is a natural thing. Violence is not. And if we start justifying intimidation against someone just because they're famous, we're heading down a dangerous path. The audience began to murmur again. But this time, their tone had changed. Then, someone started clapping, followed by others, until the sound of applause spread throughout the room. Graham tapped his fingers on the table, trying to maintain a calm expression. But he knew, and everyone in that room knew, he had lost control. Jungkook sat up straight, not smiling in satisfaction, not boasting. He didn't need to. The truth had spoken for itself. The talk show host thought he had full control over the conversation, until Jungkook turned the situation around and left him speechless. The studio lights felt brighter than usual, the heat stinging. Jungkook had often appeared on screen, facing thousands of fans at concerts, even speaking in major interviews. But today felt different. There was tension in the air, something signaling that this was not just an ordinary interview. He took a deep breath, adjusting his seat as he faced Graham Layton, the famous host of the exchange. Graham was known for his sharp questions, his habit of pressing guests, and his ability to turn interviews into public interrogations. Jungkook was invited to talk about music, his career, and his life as a global artist. But from the moment he entered the set, he knew Graham had other plans. Graham looked at him with a calculating smile, then spoke in a slightly challenging tone. Jungkook, many people admire your career journey. But there are also those who feel that your success is more due to luck than hard work. What's your response? A trap question. Jungkook knew how the media worked. He looked at Graham calmly, then said in a steady voice, success doesn't come just from luck. My team and I worked tirelessly, practicing for years, and giving our best at every opportunity. Graham smiled slightly, not satisfied with that answer. He wanted to provoke a reaction. But of course, not everyone gets the same opportunities. Some work hard their whole lives but never reach a position like yours. Maybe you were just in the right place at the right time. The audience began to stir. Some nodded, some looked disagreeing. But Jungkook remained calm. He wasn't provoked. Everyone has their own path, he said in a low but confident tone. I believe hard work will always pay off. Maybe the results look different for everyone, but effort is never wasted. Graham sighed softly, then tried another tactic. All right, let's talk about your influence. As an idol with millions of fans, do you feel responsible for everything they do or believe? Jungkook looked at him for a moment, weighing his words before answering. I greatly appreciate the support of my fans. But I also believe that everyone has their own thoughts. I can only strive to set a good example and remain true to myself. Graham smirked. That's a safe answer. But what about the controversies involving you in the past? Some argue that you don't always take a stand when your fans get involved in negative things. Jungkook sighed softly. This wasn't the first time he faced questions like this. But he refused to be manipulated. I've always wanted to spread a positive message, he finally said. But I'm also human. I can't control everyone. All I can do is keep trying to be better. Graham looked dissatisfied. He flipped through his notes, searching for something sharper. Jungkook, what about the criticism that says the K-pop industry puts too much pressure on its artists? That many idols feel trapped and lose their freedom? Jungkook looked at Graham with an unreadable expression. Every industry has its own challenges, he said quietly. I'm lucky to work with people who respect me. But I also know there are things that can be improved. That's why it's important for us to keep talking about artists' welfare. The audience began to whisper. Some looked impressed with how Jungkook handled these questions. Graham realized he was losing control of the conversation. So, he tried one last attack. Let's be honest, Jungkook. If you weren't part of such a popular group, if you didn't have support from a big company, would you still be standing here today? That question was thrown like a final blow. But Jungkook didn't waver. He looked Graham deep in the eye, then smiled. I don't know, he said honestly. But I don't spend my time thinking about what-ifs. I focus more on what I can do now, how I can keep growing. Success isn't about who gives you the opportunity, but how you use it. The room fell silent. For the first time, Graham didn't respond immediately. And then, someone in the audience started clapping. Then others followed. The applause grew louder, echoing throughout the studio. Graham cleared his throat, trying to hide his discomfort. All right, Jungkook. Thank you for your time today. Jungkook nodded politely. Thank you for having me. When the camera lights turned off, Graham let out a long sigh, leaning back in his chair. Jungkook stood up, adjusted his jacket, then looked at Graham with a neutral expression. "If one day you want to have a truly open conversation, let me know," he said before walking away. As soon as he left the studio, his phone started vibrating. Social media exploded with clips from the interview. Jungkook teaches how to handle tough interviews with elegance. Graham tried to trap him, but Jungkook turned the tables. A masterclass in controlling the narrative. Jungkook really knows how to handle pressure. There was criticism too, of course. But one thing was certain, Jungkook didn't just survive that interview, he won. And for the millions watching, he had just delivered a valuable lesson. Stay calm, hold on to your principles, and don't let others control your story. As Jungkook arrived home, he finally had a moment to breathe. He placed his phone on the table, letting the endless notifications keep coming without checking them. The interview was over, but its impact was only just beginning. After taking a quick shower, he settled onto his couch, scrolling through his messages. His group chat with BTS was blowing up. "Jimin, Jungkook, that was insane. I've never seen someone shut down a host like that before. Bro, you were so calm. If it were me, I would have lost my temper, lol. Suga, that was some master-level media handling. Did you plan all of that?" Jungkook chuckled before typing a response. "Jungkook, not really. I just didn't let him control the conversation. RM, that's exactly why you won. You controlled the narrative instead of letting him paint you into a corner." He smiled at the support from his brothers. They had been in the industry long enough to know how media worked, how narratives could be twisted, how interviews could become traps. But tonight, Jungkook had refused to fall into one. Just then, Jeon, his manager, sent him a link. "Jeon, you're trending everywhere. Even international news is picking it up." Curious, Jungkook clicked on the link. The next morning, his phone rang. It was a call from Big Hit's executive team. "Jungkook, we just want to say congratulations," the voice on the other end said. "The way you handled that interview, it was flawless. We're already receiving offers from major networks wanting to book you." Jungkook sighed. "I wasn't trying to make headlines. I just didn't want to be pushed around." "And that's exactly why it worked," they replied. "You showed people something different, an artist who isn't just a performer but someone who can stand his ground. That's powerful." After the call ended, Jungkook leaned back in his chair, thinking. He had never seen himself as a spokesperson for anything beyond music, but maybe this interview proved something. His voice mattered, not just in songs but in conversations that truly counted. The days following the interview were a whirlwind. News outlets continued to cover Jungkook's confident handling of the situation, and his name dominated social media trends. Fans celebrated his ability to remain poised, while industry professionals praised his media skills. But what surprised Jungkook the most were the new opportunities that came knocking. One morning, his manager Jeon entered his apartment with an unusually excited expression. "You're not gonna believe this," Jeon said, placing his laptop on the table. "You've just received an invitation to be a keynote speaker at a global leadership conference." Jungkook blinked. What?" Jeon chuckled. "A leadership conference. They want you to speak about handling pressure, staying authentic in the public eye, and navigating fame with integrity." Jungkook scratched his head. I just answered some questions. It wasn't that deep." "It was, though," Jeon countered. "Most celebrities either break under pressure or lash out. You did neither. You stayed in control without being aggressive, and now people see you as someone with wisdom beyond just music." Jungkook leaned back, absorbing the information. The idea of speaking at a leadership event felt foreign. He was a singer, a performer, not a public speaker. But at the same time, he had spent years in the industry, facing pressures most people couldn't even imagine. Maybe he did have something valuable to share. Later that evening, Jungkook's phone buzzed. It was Namjoon. "Hey, Hyung," Jungkook answered. "I saw the leadership conference thing," RM said. "Are you gonna do it?" Jungkook hesitated. "I don't know. Do you think I should?" "I think it depends on what you want," RM replied thoughtfully. "You've always been more than just a performer, Jungkook. This is an opportunity to show a different side of yourself. If it feels right, why not?" Jungkook appreciated Namjoon's perspective. RM had always been a natural leader, someone who understood the power of words. Maybe this was a chance for Jungkook to step into a new role, too, not just as a singer, but as someone who could inspire beyond music. When the day of the conference arrived, Jungkook found himself standing backstage, wearing a sleek black suit. The stage was massive, the audience filled with some of the most influential people in the world. He took a deep breath. This wasn't a concert. There were no backing tracks, no choreography, just him, his words, and the impact they could have. As he walked onto the stage, the applause was warm but measured. This wasn't an army crowd. These were professionals waiting to see if the young global superstar had something valuable to say. Jungkook adjusted the mic and started speaking. "I've spent most of my life in the public eye," he began. "From the age of 15, I was expected to be perfect, to sing perfectly, to dance perfectly, to speak perfectly. But the truth is, no one is perfect. And the more you try to be, the more you lose yourself." As he continued, he shared his experiences, how he had learned to handle criticism, how he stayed grounded despite the fame, and how he found strength in authenticity. By the time he finished, the audience was silent for a moment. Then, the applause came strong, genuine. Jungkook had done it. He had stepped into a new world, and he had owned it. After the event, several high-profile figures approached him, praising his speech. Some even suggested future collaborations, projects beyond music, involving mentorship and global initiatives. As Jungkook left the venue that night, he felt something shift inside him. Music would always be his first love, but maybe, just maybe, his voice had a bigger purpose. Whatever came next, he was ready. Jungkook thought the conference would be the peak of this new journey. He was wrong. It was only the beginning. A few days after his speech, he was back in Seoul, enjoying a rare quiet evening when Jeon called. "Jungkook, we have a problem." Jungkook tensed. "What kind of problem?" Jeon hesitated. "Someone leaked private footage of you from years ago. Nothing scandalous, but it's edited to make you look bad. Manipulative, arrogant, like you're not who people think you are." Jungkook's stomach twisted. "Who leaked it?" "We don't know yet, but it's spreading fast." Jungkook immediately opened his phone. His name was trending again, but this time, the hashtags were mixed with words like fake, two-faced, and exposed. Clips from old behind-the-scenes footage, conversations taken out of context, and misleading headlines flooded social media. His heart pounded. He had dealt with hate before, but this felt different. It was calculated. Someone wanted to destroy his image. Hours later, Jeon and the PR team gathered at the agency. Screens displayed different articles, tweets, and viral posts. Some fans defended him, but others, especially those who never liked him, were fueling the fire. "This isn't just random," Jeon said grimly. "Someone planned this." Jungkook clenched his fists. "But why now?" Jeon sighed. "Because you're stepping into a new world. The leadership conference, your growing influence outside music. Someone doesn't like that." Just then, an email popped up on Jeon's screen. It was anonymous, but the message was clear. "Stay in your lane, Jungkook, or we'll make sure the world sees who you really are." A threat. Jungkook's blood ran cold. This wasn't just hate. This was a warning. Someone powerful was behind this, and they wanted him to back down. Most people in his position would lay low, wait for the storm to pass. But Jungkook was done playing it safe. He turned to Jeon. "We fight back." Jeon raised an eyebrow. "How?" Jungkook grabbed his phone and opened a live stream. If someone wanted to manipulate his image, he would face it head-on. As soon as he went live, tens of thousands of people joined. "I've seen what's going around," Jungkook said, his voice steady. "And I won't stay silent." He looked directly at the camera. "The clips being spread are old and edited. The real story behind them? I'll tell you myself." For the next 20 minutes, Jungkook broke down the accusations, revealing the full context of each clip. He didn't make excuses, he acknowledged his mistakes, but he also exposed the manipulation behind the smear campaign. By the time he ended the live stream, the internet had flipped. Fans were rallying behind him. The hashtag We Stand With Jungkook trended worldwide. But more importantly, people started questioning who was behind the attack. The shadow behind the curtain. That night, Jeon received another anonymous message. "You should have stayed quiet. Now you've made it worse for yourself." Jungkook smirked when Jeon showed him. "Good. Let's see what they do next." He had spent years following the rules, staying out of trouble. But this time, he wasn't just defending himself. He was hunting down the truth. And whoever was behind this. They just made the biggest mistake of their lives. Jungkook leaned back in his chair, staring at the message on Jeon's phone. "You should have stayed quiet. Now you've made it worse for yourself." A threat. A challenge. His lips curled into a smirk. They're scared. Jeon wasn't as amused. "This isn't a game, Jungkook. Whoever is behind this isn't just some jealous anti-fan. They have resources, connections. Then we find out who they are." Jungkook's voice was calm, but his eyes burned with determination. "If they want a war, let's give them one." Jeon knew better than to argue. He made a few calls, reaching out to a contact who specialized in cyber investigations. Within hours, they had a lead, an IP address traced back to a private server in Hong Kong. They're smart, the investigators said, using VPNs, proxies, layers of fake accounts. But they made a mistake. Jungkook leaned forward. What mistake? They used a burner email that was linked to a dormant account from 4 years ago. Guess who owned it? Jihoon's eyes widened as he read the name. Seo Miho. Jungkook felt a jolt of recognition. Seo Miho, a former industry executive. Years ago, he was caught in a scandal for manipulating artist contracts and blackmailing competitors. He disappeared after being exposed. Now he was back. Jihoon's jaw tightened. If Miho is behind this, we have a serious problem. Jungkook nodded. Then we hit him first. Instead of hiding, Jungkook did the opposite. He announced a surprise interview with one of the biggest media outlets in Korea. He knew Miho would be watching, waiting for him to slip up, to get nervous. But Jungkook wasn't nervous. He was ready. The interview started as expected, discussing his career, music, and recent controversies. Then the interviewer asked, "There are rumors that someone is targeting you. Do you have any idea who it might be?" Jungkook looked straight into the camera. "I do," he said, "and I'm going to make sure the truth comes out." The internet exploded. Journalists started digging. Fans began connecting dots. And just as expected, Miho panicked. That night, Jihoon received another email. "You don't know who you're messing with, Jungkook. Stop now, or you'll regret it." Jungkook laughed. "That's the best he's got?" Jihoon wasn't convinced. Miho is dangerous. Jungkook's phone buzzed. Another email, this time with an attachment. A video. He clicked on it. The footage was grainy but clear. A man in a hoodie sneaking into a car, planting something under the dashboard. Jihoon's face paled. "That's your car." Jungkook's blood ran cold. Miho wasn't just attacking his reputation anymore. He was coming for his life. Jungkook's heart pounded as he stared at the video. Someone had tampered with his car. Jihoon grabbed his keys. "We need to check it. Now." They rushed to the parking garage, moving cautiously. Jungkook's black SUV sat in the dim light, untouched, at least on the surface. Jihoon's fingers trembled as he reached under the dashboard, right where the man in the video had planted something. Then he froze. Shit. His voice was barely a whisper. Jungkook crouched down, following Jihoon's gaze. Nestled beneath the dashboard was a small, black device with a blinking red light. A tracker. Maybe more. "We can't touch it," Jihoon said, his voice tight. "It could be just a GPS, or it could be something worse," Jungkook finished. They backed away, calling the authorities. Within minutes, a bomb squad arrived. The garage was locked down. The tension was unbearable as the specialists examined the device. Then, all clear. Jungkook exhaled, his hands still clenched. "It was just a tracker," one officer confirmed. "Someone's been monitoring your movements." Jihoon looked at Jungkook. "Miho wanted to know exactly where you'd be." Jungkook's jaw tightened. "Then let's give him what he wants." Jihoon contacted his team. Within hours, they set up a fake location signal for the tracker, making it appear as though Jungkook was heading to a secluded house on the outskirts of Seoul. If Miho was watching, he'd take the bait. Jungkook, meanwhile, stayed hidden in a high-rise apartment overlooking the city, eyes fixed on the security feed. Minutes passed. Then an alert. A black SUV pulled up near the fake location. A figure stepped out. Jungkook's breath caught. It wasn't Miho. It was someone worse. Kong Taehyung. Taehyung was a fixer, a man who made problems disappear for powerful people. If he was working for Miho, this was bigger than just revenge. Jungkook turned to Jihoon. "We need to end this. Now." Jihoon nodded. "Then we go after the head of the snake." Miho thought he was hunting Jungkook. But the real hunt had just begun. The city lights flickered in the distance as Jungkook stood by the window, his mind racing. The discovery of the tracker had confirmed his worst fears. Miho wasn't just watching. He was planning something. Jihoon worked quickly, his fingers flying over the laptop as he rerouted the tracker's signal. Within moments, it sent a false location, a remote house deep in the hills. If Miho took the bait, they'd finally get the upper hand. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Then, the security feed came to life. A black SUV slowed near the decoy location. The doors opened. A lone figure stepped out, his presence sending a chill down Jungkook's spine. It wasn't Miho. It was Kong Taehyung, a ghost from the past. Ruthless, efficient, deadly. Jungkook clenched his fists. This wasn't just about settling an old grudge. This was a warning. Jihoon's voice was barely a whisper. We need to move. Jungkook didn't hesitate. The time for hiding was over. Tonight, the hunt began.